Today on Media and Society, we're discussing the digital space and what the huge leaps taken in the tech space mean for media and society. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Naledi Mulo, and of course, remember, this show is really where we take a look at the intersection between the media and society, but of course, it's not complete without your input, so feel free to interact with us over the next hour. Give us a call on 011-714-0661 or 0662. You can also tweet us using the hashtag SABC Media Society. Well, the ever-changing growth and expansion of technology has really thrown the world into a new era of a new industrial revolution. Technology at the helm of major changes that we are seeing constantly challenging how we all picture the future. Well, recently, we've seen the rise of things like chatbots. You may have heard of ChatGPT, which are computer programs that use artificial intelligence and natural language processing to understand questions and then automate responses, simulating a human conversation. This is already revolutionizing how we work. And of course, it's also starting to find its way into the media space. And journalists can now also use AI in media production processes. It's fascinating. They can gather content and understand data pools as well as compose and distribute media at the click of a button in what is becoming known as automated journalism. Well, we're going to talk and unpack artificial intelligence and robotics. And to do that, we are joined by Mudiwa Gavaza, who is a journalist at the Business Day, writing about tech advancements constantly. We're also joined by Reshin Devnarain, who is joining us via Zoom. He's a technology strategist at Sisekelo Institute of Business and Technology. And Lavina Ramkissoon, who is a technologist as well, joins us in studio. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
And good morning.
Well, I think talk to us first about your work, Lavina. I'm keen to hear. You know, we're at a point where we're getting all these new titles that we haven't heard. What is a technologist exactly?
I love that question. So a technologist is someone who kind of really immerses themselves in the different variations, that be the old tech as well as the new emerging tech. And someone that kind of understands both the business side as well as the actual, technical components of what technology is. Yeah.
Okay. Very, very interesting. Mudiwa, I'm going to come to you because I think as a journalist, you write about technology, but as a journalist, are you starting to get worried that we might not have jobs in the next 10 years?
It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
And I actually saw a demonstration of this a couple of years ago. I was actually doing a course with Bloomberg at Gibbs University. This was like 2017. And at that time, they actually demoed how they had a system, because it writes articles, right? They had a system that could write articles back in 2017 even, right, to do market reports for traders in the morning. Whilst you were sleeping, this is what happened. They were quite basic, but even back then, you could see, what was going to happen into the future.
Okay, so that's quite concerning then. That it is quite concerning. And I was telling Lavina earlier that, once you started using ChatGPT, you realize just how efficient you can be. And I talked about how documents that would have taken weeks on end to write, I was able to do in about an hour, right? But how do we explain to the normal South African what chatbots are exactly? Because I don't think we need to start there with explaining the very basics, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it really starts with some form of a communication, right? That's the basic. And since we're talking media, I think that makes sense. So a chatbot is literally something that you can engage with, that you can ask questions and it can give a response. So that's why it has been very much one way or one directional, right? However, we're going into an era where I think the likes of ChatGPT, Bing, Sydney, Lambda, all these cool stuff have become really tangible to us. So that means, every single one of us can actually engage with it and utilize it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I want to bring Reshin in here because Reshin, essentially, you're a technology strategist at Sisekelo Institute of Business. Tell us about Sisekelo, the work you do there, and what does it mean to be a technology strategist?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Naledi. So what it means to be a technology strategist is a multifold duty. So at Sisekelo, we essentially are a business and training institution. And one of the most important elements is to marry technology to skills. Now, as a technology strategist, I've worked for some of the largest systems integrators in the country and some large organizations in the world. And what we've seen is that the marriage between skills and technology in Africa, there is a bit of a gap a huge gap that's there. So now what we're doing at Sisekelo is actually bringing the two worlds together, where through Sisekelo and its partnerships, we have the ability to enable organizations, enable people with the ability to understand artificial intelligence in its various domains, from natural language processing to computer vision and all the different technological components that make up artificial intelligence. We are bringing the skills enablement to the country, accredited skills enablement, to allow individuals to get involved in this industry and to provide relevant solutions that come right out of Africa.
Yeah.
We all know that, yes.
No, go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that, we all know that, the essential skills required for artificial intelligence, and we need to prepare for the future. And there are two categories. One is, skills adoption of developers that build tools and platforms. And the second is the utilization of these tools and platforms. And there are these two types of skills that need to be enabled, which we are now bringing to Africa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I quite like the way we're taking the conversation there, where we start talking about skills, because I think that there's a lot of work to be done in South Africa where we start preparing ourselves for the technology that's coming. And I know you write quite a bit about this as well, right? Where you're seeing the gaps and the opportunities for us to fill them from a skills point of view, particularly in the media industry.
I think before we even go anywhere else, people need to not be scared of the AI, because right now there's a very reactionary, type of attitude.
The robots are coming to get us.
Yes, the robots are coming to get us. That's the first one. The second one is let's ban the AI, right? And we see that happening at an educational level. So if we're going to be worrying about, let's say, media professionals of the future, right? In the pipeline, what are they being taught? Right. There's a school that I engaged with a couple of weeks ago. I think it's called Regent College in Cape Town, and it should be Regent House in Cape Town. And they're actually piloting the use of ChatGPT and other generative AI, between students and teachers, right? Because there's different use cases there. That's a good, as far as I'm concerned, you'd rather embrace it early on so that you equip yourself with the tools. You've realized how much more efficient it can make you. Someone else is looking there and saying, this could take my job, and they're scared to even, touch it. So at least introduce it, earlier on in the pipeline. And then when people come into the professional space, you'll be able to at least, become more efficient, because as a media professional, it allows you to get through way more data, because a big part of what we do is, going through a lot of data and actually having to then communicate it out to the public. So if you can be more efficient by using AI, then go for it.
I really want to talk a little bit about the different kinds of AI. You mentioned quite a few names there: Lambda, ChatGPT. Some of those I've never heard of. Talk to us about what the differences are. I think now it's a great opportunity for us and the viewers to learn about, there's all these places that I can go.
Yeah, so I think, from an AI perspective, you have different use cases, and that's where it becomes really important and what kind of sets you apart. You gave the example earlier on of Bing and, in education, and ChatGPT in education. We actually have had, for example, a South African-based startup called Fundamate, who has been doing this like 10 months before ChatGPT. And, it's done via WhatsApp, and it's pretty cool, very interactive. So that's the use case. The likes of ChatGPT, Bing, and Lambda, and Sydney, all these in particular, they are based for engagement. So, it's about learning how we as humans would engage and what those kind of responses should be. But equally so, as you mentioned, it's about reducing the time frame in which we could actually get things done. So, the baseline of AI has always been around automation of tasks, right? And how can we also then take that and also optimize ourselves? And I think that's where we find ourselves in a position to reinvent not only just media, but society as well.
I want to talk a little bit about media specifically where AI is concerned, and if we're doing enough coverage of tech advancements, particularly for a South African audience? Because where people don't know about those platforms, it's our responsibility to make them aware, right? Are we doing enough of that, though?
I actually think we lack. As someone who covers the sector, I think there's a lack of true understanding around technology, but more importantly, how technology can be used to solve certain problems. There's a company called Robotics, for example. It's a startup, and they've done very well in South Africa, but also internationally, been able to raise over 100 million rand in terms of funding, because they're so good. And basically all these guys do is they have a system that uses drones, right? And then you have, through the cameras, they have an AI that's able to do, crop counting, crop health for farmers, right? You just fly over a drone instead of having people going and physically, checking, what your crops are doing. You actually just fly a drone and it's able to say, hey, this crop is, everything is still all right, but we're sensing dangers, in these particular areas.
Yeah.
You're a farmer, you've got a large, space to cover. And that's just one of the many, real world, examples, that are out there. And I think it's because people, you see it as being novel. All right, cool. I can use ChatGPT. What is the, what is the meaning of life? And then you start chatting with this thing.
Goodness.
Right?
Sheesh.
I actually asked ChatGPT that. What is the meaning?
What was the answer? I'm curious.
It gave a very, long thing about, different philosophies and how, different philosophers have approached, that answer. But it's just about how do you specifically then take, some of those use cases. Because, for example, let's use ChatGPT as an example. Generative AI. Imagine a future where you plug in, your business's information into a ChatGPT or the GPT layer underneath, ChatGPT. You put it in there, and then because of your partnership with the Microsoft, for example, you're sitting in Microsoft Teams, you're talking to a client, right? The client is asking a question, right? They're telling you their problem, and they're like, how best can you, help us as a business? On the side here, you've got ChatGPT open, and it's able to, in real
Find
time,
the solutions.
Real time tell you,
Sheesh.
From our business and our capabilities, this is what we can offer, this specific, business asset. Because what ends up happening with client engagements, the client comes, you have a meeting, you dissect the problem, then you're like, no, give us a week, we'll come back again, we'll touch base, and then we'll come back a week later and do that. But with something like that, you're now able to, squeeze down some of those things, reduce the number of meetings that you would have, had for something like that. And you'll see businesses, I think, will be, very good to go on that end.
Yeah, I want to actually take a short break, and when we come back, I'll let you respond, and I want to bring this one to Reshan as well, and talk about whether or not we're starting to see businesses actually starting to think like what Mudi was talking about. But I think more than anything, talk to us about whether or not you are being educated enough about technology by South African media. Are you able to keep up with the trends and the new ideas and innovations that are hitting us constantly? Is the media doing enough to keep you informed? Give us a call, 011-714-0661. Let's take a short break. We're back in a moment.
Digital art creators have been making full use of the sophisticated AI programs to produce cartoons and pictures. With just a few words entered into a prompt, some AI programs that designers use, such as Midjourney, can create human-like digital art by analyzing vast collections of related art on the internet, which is a big help for them to save time for the human part of script writing and concept art design.
We can type words into AI programs like Midjourney and they will come up with pictures for us. So when we're in discussions, everyone can understand the way the director and producer think about their project in visual terms. That's a big help to all the staff to working better as a part of the creative team.
In addition to coming up with graphics, AI tech can be applied to doing tasks like automating character movements and creating smooth video edits.
AI might gradually replace humans in some technical aspects of the work, like dealing with motion capture data. These can be completely done by AI or other software. But it's humans that decide how to use the data at the final stage. And AI programs can help us produce paintings as they can work from a large database, but it's we who decide whether to use them.
The most recent advance in AI is the much-discussed ChatGPT, a chat box with the ability to respond to questions and perform tasks in a human-like manner. Experts said that AI products like this will help many people to lighten their workloads.
This technology can be used to produce products like intelligent assistants. For example, designers can ask the chatbot about the parameter of the products they are required to design. Also, AI products like ChatGPT have great language processing abilities, so they can support specialists in writing business reports. We are likely to see more human and AI collaboration like this in the future.
The real progress will come when people learn better on how to leverage the strength of AI to produce high quality and innovative work.
Fascinating, right? We're moving into a brave new world. And of course, AI technology, it really is transforming every walk of life. It's given people different ways of consuming and disseminating information. Some countries are known for their significant contributions to the field of AI, including the United States, China, Canada, and several European countries such as the United Kingdom, France, and Germany. Now, these countries have strong research and development capabilities in AI. In fact, according to Quartz, an American news website, AI could expand Africa's economy by a staggering $1.5 trillion by 2030, which is about 50% of its current our current GDP. Countries that dominate in AI on the continent, of course, are South Africa. No surprises that it would be Kenya, Egypt, and Nigeria as well. But even though South Africa is in the forefront of this field, we are teaching and informing people enough, or are we teaching and informing people enough about the world of AI? Give us a call and share your thoughts with us. 011-714-0661. We continue our conversation. Rishan, I wanted to come to you and talk a little bit about whether or not we're starting to see more and more businesses really start to embed AI into their systems, Rishan.
Yes, absolutely. So AI is actually generating more jobs as it enables businesses to become more efficient, especially SME businesses. So if you look at the growth factor in Africa, the essential growth factor comes from growing SME businesses. And with the adoption of artificial intelligence, they become more productive, more resourceful, and it also allows for more entrepreneurship opportunities, which is great for Africa. You know, the general perception is artificial intelligence is taking jobs. In fact, it's the opposite. Now, we currently have a huge skills gap, but with the rise of artificial intelligence, companies and people are taking advantage of technology like never before, without having, spent years of studying, learning advanced coding, and extensive experience to be able to perform in various job types. So that is why essentially AI is helping to grow the industry economically, and also help SME businesses and large businesses to grow their footprint. Now, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
So let's take, for example, artificial intelligence being utilized by novice or non-analytical people in the business intelligence space, analytical space. So AI is not just, platforms on its own and open source platforms, but also being utilized within technologies that you and I are familiar with. So take business intelligence, for example. Individuals are able to perform in their duties more effectively with the help of artificial intelligence. BI or analytical tools can automate data analysis and provide insights that otherwise would require extensive manual effort and expertise. So these types of tools can identify patterns, anomalies, and large trends in volumes of data, allowing non-analytical or novice users to very quickly gain deeper insights and understandings into business operations.
Right.
Hence, allowing businesses to grow at a faster rate. It also has the potential to create new job opportunities in Africa in fields such as machine learning, artificial intelligence development, and in general business functions. So there are other ways as well. So if you look at other ways that jobs are created and business is adopting technology in artificial intelligence, let me give you another example. So it can improve healthcare by enabling more accurate diagnosis and personalized treatments. This can create new job opportunities in healthcare-related fields such as medical research, data analysis, and software development. So artificial intelligence provides a dynamic and exponential adoption within these businesses to provide not only more jobs, but allow these businesses to grow.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about what we're starting to see in terms of access, right? Right now, I've got a bit of AI on my cell phone right now. You've got these little apps that you're able to download, the likes of Lensa, that are artistic, artificial intelligent apps that essentially can create an art piece of myself. I mean, some of these things are incredible. I look at that though, and even the animation that we showed a little bit earlier on, I look at that and I think the artist must be terrified watching some of those advancements. And then what happens with intellectual property?
Yeah, what happens to intellectual property? Awesome question. You know, and there's loads of debates around it, loads of different perspectives. So there's mainly three camps. One being, you know, the AI needs to become incorporated, which means it needs to stand as its own and own it. We've also know that from a you know, company perspective, they want to own it because they've developed the AI. And then there's the other train of thought that says that, you know, no one needs to own it at all. Okay, so very vast, and I don't think that we're going to find an answer anytime soon to that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think intellectual property is, again, who owns it, who should own it, and why should you own it, right? These are tough questions, and I think, you know, through regulation and through applications, we're going to start unpacking it a lot more.
Yeah.
Having said that, we've also already seen, for example, a CEO being, you know, an AI being a CEO of a metaverse company. This happened last year,
Really?
right? Yeah. And then we've also equally seen, you know, an NFT being sold by an AI for over $1 million.
What?
Okay, so it's insanity that's already hit the ground, right? And we need to find ways of understanding how to best balance ourselves in that space.
Yeah. I mean, an NFT sold by AI, I mean, we still have to explain to so many South Africans what a non-fungible token is in the first place.
Yeah.
People don't even understand that you can have a digital asset that you invest in, that you can sell and trade. There's so much for us to learn. Does the IP story really matter?
It really does,
Yeah.
and especially given the fact that there are a lot of, I think where it's going to matter is with a lot of the corporate interests that are at play right now, because as much as we talk about your small struggling artist, right, and how, you know, they might be suffering, there are larger institutions that have the money to go and challenge some of these companies. So a good example is when you look at some of these platforms like Midjourney, like DALL-E, which is made by the same company as ChatGPT, that's OpenAI. What they do is they create images based on what they've seen online, right? And very recently, there's a big case going on. There's a company called Getty Images. If you've gone online and you've searched for something, chances are there's a lot of stock platforms out there.
Yes.
iStock, ThinkStock. Getty Images is a big, you know, platform that has a huge repository of images. And some of the AI systems were generating images based on Getty Images library. And if you've ever seen Getty Images, they have in the bottom...
The watermark, yes.
Bottom right corner, they have that watermark. And some of the images that were being generated by these systems had like very blurry
because it was imitating even the watermark.
Yes, because in certain instances it's bringing in actual images that is found on the internet and then, you know, manipulating them to what you want to say, and the watermark can clearly be seen that it scraped images that have come from Getty Images. So a company like that with the resources is taking a company like that to task to say, you guys are generating content based on our library. We want what's due to us.
Okay, that's a big battle that's coming at us then,
huge.
obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be very interesting. And I'm keen to see as well how many journalists you know of, Mudiwa, who are actively using AI in their work. So are we starting to see journalists that are saying, well, you know, I'm going to write up that script right now that Naledi's reading off the auto cue from ChatGPT?
This one is it's an interesting
That's a dicey one.
It's a dicey one, but I have already seen a couple of, been talking to a couple of people in the local industry that are using it in radio production side. I've also seen people, you know, obviously from a writing point of view, you have one or two people that are, you know, trying to do that. The problem, right, is that as much as we talk about the threat on jobs, there's still a big opportunity where you need the skilled professionals that can vet the content that is coming out of the system. There is a huge, you know, scandal that happened at the end of last year. There's a company called CNET, and they are a big technology platform, you know, in the United States, and they had a number of articles. They had been playing around with their own AI. This is before ChatGPT was released at the end of November. And this AI was writing basic articles. What is an interest rate? You know, what is monetary policy? Those types of basic explainers. But after a while, readers started noticing like small factual inaccuracies in how, you know, these stories were being written. Some of the AI wasn't doing, you know, simple mathematics,
yes,
you know, correctly. And in the end, they had to put out a statement to say, unfortunately, they had over 70 articles on their page, right, that had been generated by this AI. Unfortunately, they didn't have, you know, journalists, sub-editors, or anyone who
to
went
go back and check copy
and actually check the copy and checks the facts. Because when you're reading something that comes out of, let's say, a ChatGPT, Bing AI, or whatever it is that you're using, it really sounds confident. Like when you're reading it, it reads
polished,
as if like it's like it knows what it's talking about. But you need to have that third eye, and I think that still is an opportunity where your skilled professionals are still there. Lawyers are actually one of the professions that has been touted. Lawyers, journalists, copywriters, that have been said, oh, your jobs is over, right? But right now, the AI is still getting a lot of things wrong. So there is that big gap that's there where you can use it, you know, maybe cobble together one or two basic paragraphs, analyze help to analyze the data, but the human element still needs to be there. Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, we like the human touch.
Thank you. And if you see, I mean, if you go out into the internet, you can start searching and you can actually look and see that you've got already AI news readers, right? So a digital news reader who comes up on the screen and tells you the news of the day. Is that the future? We certainly will be watching very closely. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about access, right? Who has access to tech and how do we make it accessible for more people? Stay with us.
Frida is cleaning her paintbrush. She's the new artist in residence at Carnegie Mellon University's Robotics Institute. But Frida is not an artist. She's a robotic arm with a paintbrush taped to it and uses artificial intelligence to collaborate with humans on works of art. Ask Frida to paint a picture and it gets to work putting brush to canvas.
So Frida is a project sort of exploring the intersection of human and robotic creativity. My angle on Frida is that this is a platform to look at how robots can use imprecise tools. Because these days, a lot of what we automate is really, really precise, but painting is not. And Frida, especially the way Frida plans and works, is imprecise. It's this kind of imprecise tool situation.
Frida, named after Mexican artist Frida Kahlo, stands for Framework and Robotics Initiative for Developing Arts. The robot uses AI models similar to those powering tools like OpenAI's ChatGPT and DALL-E 2, which can generate text or an image in response to a prompt.
Frida is doing something that most robots don't. Frida is using the kind of AI models that have been developed to do things like caption images and understand scene content, and applying it to this artistic generative problem. And Frida is doing that by planning in a semantic space, a space of meaning, instead of a space of outputs. So Frida really is like a painter and not a printer, which is
Simulates how it would paint an image with brush strokes and uses machine learning to evaluate its progress as it works.
Is Frida using artistic expression? On one hand, you could be very reductionist and say, again, artistic expression is this mysterious thing we don't understand. And we understand how Frida works. It's juggling numbers in tables, and those numbers were derived from large collections of images and words. So therefore, there can't be any room for artistic expression. On the other hand, we could turn this around and say, well, what does an artist do but distill some subset of the zeitgeist, distill some subset of what people around them are saying and doing, and turn that into an expression. And in which case, that's exactly what Frida is doing.
Once Frida's operator specifies a concept of a painting they want to create, the robot uses machine learning to create its simulation and develop a plan. It displays a color palette on a computer screen for a human to mix and provide to the robot. Once it starts painting, it uses an overhead camera to capture an image of the painting. The image helps Frida evaluate its progress and refine its plan, if needed. The scientists say if Frida makes a mistake, it riffs on it, incorporating the errant splotch of paint into the end result, just like an artist.
Incredible, incredible. Well, we continue our conversation around artificial intelligence shaping the future of humanity across nearly every industry. And it's already the main driver of emerging technologies like big data and robotics. In reality, AI, of course, is already at work all around us, impacting everything from our search results, the way we shop, socialize, and even how we lead our daily lives. Well, we continue our conversation as we talk more about AI, access to technology, as well as where we take the conversation now. Still in conversation with Mudiwa Kavaza, journalist at Business Day, writing on tech. Reshan Devnarain joins us via Zoom. He's there with us, and he is a technology strategist at Sisekelo Institute of Business and Technology. Lavina Ramkissoon is a technologist, and she's in studio with us as well. And now we're joined by Vatiswa Gilevan, who is a recruitment and community specialist at ALX South Africa. Vatiswa, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Tell us about the work that you do at ALX.
So ALX is a sister company to the African Leadership Group, and ALX is the arm of the company that actually puts together training programs, and those training programs are actually focused on giving access and upskilling young people in Africa in technology. We've been doing this since 2018, and the key focus in 2023 is actually women in tech and giving access to women into the technology space.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the knowledge gap, and I think it's a really big problem, because we were talking earlier about NFTs and Lambda. I learned a new word, I'm going to run with it, but we're using all these terms, and the reality is the majority of South Africans have no idea what we're talking about.
Well, if you look at the landscape of education in South Africa, and I like the statistic that says we sit at the top when it comes to the continent, but when we look at South Africa in particular, there's a huge gap in terms of people that have access into technology. Yes, we have young people, with smartphones, and they're interacting with technology on the front end using applications that do various things. But from an education point of view, there's still a huge gap, because we all know that South Africa still has a huge majority of our young people in township schools that do not have infrastructure, in rural areas that are underdeveloped and don't even have your basic needs. So when you start engaging with the concept of technology, it's a foreign concept to a majority of our young people. And that is why and where institutions like ALX come on board to do a public and private participation, because it's not a one-man job, and it's not a private sector only responsibility.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of work to be done. Reshan, let me bring you in here. I think there's great opportunity as well to say what we really need to do as a country is stimulate jobs, and for that we need to be able to upskill even small to medium enterprises, right? Firstly, I think let's start with this. Are we upskilling? And I'm talking about me as a media practitioner and other media practitioners. Are we doing enough to upskill those small to medium enterprises to be able to move into the fourth industrial revolution and be more efficient?
So excellent. So, I don't think we're doing enough at the moment. There's still a lot of awareness that's required to adopt and bring in skills into the education environment. However, there are technological partners that are available globally that we, like for example, Sisekelo has partnered with some technological companies that specialize in AI development with not just academic understanding. There's a very importance between academic understanding and practical understanding. One needs to learn how to use the tools in an actual job type of environment. That's important. And that's where we need to come in and educate the market where they can access these types of tools, how they access it, and how they can apply this into their particular job or future job duties. And that's essentially the fundamental that we need to make awareness of into the marketplace and into the entire of Africa for that matter. So what I'm saying is, look, with regards to the way Sisekelo is functioning is, we have now adopted strategies and career guidance pathways into artificial intelligence to create that awareness into the marketplace. But more needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. More needs to be done. Are we seeing enough of those stories?
I hope so. And the reason I'm saying that is because, when you look at technology in South Africa, we talk about the digital divide, right? And that's basically the gap between the haves and the have-nots when it comes to technology. And one of the biggest things that I, fear is the fact that as you get, further down the line when it comes to things like, let's say, generative AI, right? Generative AI is giving... Not everyone is using ChatGPT, right? There's a small subset of people in South Africa that have access to, fast internet laptops, smart devices, data, power.
And power.
Yes, and power, right? Data, all of that, already, takes a lot of people out of the equation, right? And then that same group of people multiplies, right, their efficiency, their productivity, what they can do in business and commerce even more using some of these tools. So my fear is the fact that you already have a big chunk of the population that's already, on the back foot, right? But the people that are ahead, now, if you've watched car racing, they've press the blast off button and, some of these things, they go up. And I think it's illustrated quite a bit when you look at, one of the things that I look at quite a bit is capital raises in South Africa for tech startups, right? And you then see that South Africa is one of the 4 hubs that's spoken about when it comes to technology use, innovation in Africa: South Africa, Egypt, Kenya, Nigeria, right? One of the big hubs. But once again, it's only, imagine South Africa's place as a tech innovator, right? Its place at the top is literally held together by a small subset of the country.
Yes.
Right? In the last couple of weeks, we've seen big capital raises. I think Naked Insurance, they did about, I can't remember the number, 300 million rand that they've recently raised. Planet 42, which is a car subscription tech platform, 1.8 billion rand or $100 million. So there's a lot of investment that's coming into technology in South Africa. And if you look at all of this capital raise, this is international money coming in mainly. So there's a lot of focus on South Africa, a lot of money coming into South Africa, but once again, it
needs to filter down.
Exactly,
and this is why we have this conversation, because to a great extent that becomes very much my responsibility, the media practitioner's responsibility, to get as much information to you as possible. Give us a call, 011-714-0661. Muleleki is in the Free State. Muleleki, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for calling, Muleleki.
Yes, can I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead. We're listening.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Muleleki. We're listening.
Yes, I think as I was watching the program on TV, it came to my mind that there was a long-drawn case about the guy who discovered the things called, I don't know whether I should call that an app or what. It was that case between that guy and the big company about the ownership of the intellectual property. Now, my first question is whether that discovery falls under the use of AI and robotics, and as to whether, the second question is what happened to that case.
Do you know anything about the case?
The big company, I won't mention the names.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling, Muleleki. And I think we touched on AI a little bit earlier, IP a little bit earlier, about what actually happens with the IP. And I wonder if perhaps we need to have a conversation around not just dealing with the issues of access, but also starting to legislate around artificial intelligence, particularly for ourselves here in South Africa, instead of waiting for everyone else to do it as well?
Absolutely, and I think the conversation with that is, do we regulate the technology, or do we actually regulate the use cases or the applications of it? And I'm very much more in favor of the applications rather than the actual tech, because tech in itself can do various things. We know this, and the potential is tenfold, but it's how we actually allow that to be balanced within our engagements that then matter. I mean, a lot of what we spoke about has been the different use cases of AI, but there's also been the other side of it, like, for example, getting people that cannot walk to walk again, those people that cannot see to see again. Like, those are the things that also impact society, right? Which should have a bigger light and a bigger say.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the way forward. I know that you've got the solutions for us on how we start to upskill, particularly for the ladies, because it is International Women's Month as well, so you're doing a lot of work for women.
Yes, it is an International Women's Month, and we saw fit because we've got running programs throughout the year and different intakes throughout the year. So we decided this year that we are going to commemorate International Women's Day, with Women's Day being on the 8th of March, next Wednesday, with dedicating an entire intake for software engineering to only and exclusively to women. The applications are currently open. They close on the 15th of March, with the program starting with onboarding on the 27th of March. So we've got about, 7 days left before the applications close, but the intake for this software engineering is only open to women, and that's one of the many ways we at ALX are trying to be part of the change makers and doers, because we can sit and talk and have conferences and summits on these things and talk about the gender gap, but until we come on board as a collective of different solution makers, because we don't claim to be the only party that can do this, but we want to be one of the change makers that are doing something to bridge this gender gap.
Where do we go? Give us the site, because anyone who's listening right now says, what am I searching for?
Because it's like 7 days left, right? So it's ALX Africa, one word, .com. That's it. And when you land on the site, on the landing page, you will see all the different courses on there. Then there will be software engineering as well. And the criteria is quite simple. As long as you're female for this intake, you are between the ages of 18 and 34 and are originally from the African continent. So even if you are in South Africa but are not originally from South Africa, as long as you are African, because we are all brothers and sisters, you can take part in the program.
All right, great stuff. Rishad, let me bring you in here. I know you've got some opportunities as well to upskill people.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to mention something that is vitally important. When it comes to technology, a very important aspect is recognizing people from a professional accreditation perspective. So what we currently are doing is we're professionalizing the IT space to recognize people in their various designations from a practical learning perspective. Like, for example, we can qualify people up to a chartered professional in artificial intelligence and software development and their various designations. So one can start off learning at a very junior level, as a junior engineer or junior developer, and advance themselves on the same accreditation right up to a chartered professional, like a chartered accountant. So which recognizes people professionally.
Okay, let me ask you this, Rishad. Let me just ask you this, because I'm running out of time, but give us a site that we can go so we can look at all of that work that you're doing.
Okay, so it's Sisekelo, www.sisekelo.co.za.
Okay.
You can go in and have a look at all the programs and professional designations.
Yeah, Sisekelo, SISEKELO.co.za. Rishad, thank you so much. A call to action, I think, for media practitioners for you.
I think go familiarize yourself with the tools that are out there. A lot of people have said Bing as a search platform was dead, but I really think that if you just want to see a glimpse into what some of this technology can do, I say go and register for Bing's the new Bing platform, because it's underpinned by ChatGPT, a more advanced version of ChatGPT. You can even drag a PDF into your browser, and it will be able to summarize points and all that. There's so much that it
Fascinating.
that it can do.
Keep up.
So I would say, just as a next step, go register for one of these platforms. At least play with the technology as opposed to, taking a hands-off approach. Unfortunately, our media professionals have, we have this reputation of being a bit aloof sometimes when it comes to some of the developments. And my call to action is go register for some of these platforms, play around with it. You don't want to be left behind.
Okay, great stuff. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Continue the great work of bringing these opportunities to women in Russian as well, to businesses as well. An absolute pleasure speaking to Lavina Ramkisoon, technologist, Vati Swagilivan, who is a recruitment and community specialist at ALX South Africa. Thanks as well to Reshan Devnarain, technology strategist at Sisekelo Institute, as well as Mudiwa Kavaza, journalist at the Business Day, covering stories around technology. It's been an absolute wonderful hour. We've enjoyed spending this time with you. We're back again next week. Have yourself a wonderful Sunday.